Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board of Managers to order. First, I need to call attendance. Manager Crafton. Manager Stovering.
Present.
Manager Duval.
Present.
Manager Nelson. Present. We don't hear you, but we know you're there and we see you say present.
You're muted.
Present.
Thank you. Manager Patterson, I'm here. So all of us are here. The next item we have on the agenda is to swear our new manager into office. And I will turn that over to Mr. Smith.
Welcome, Ms. Stovering. If you would stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Leslie Stovering, do solemnly swear
I, Leslie Stovering, do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of manager
of the office of manager
of the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District
of the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Welcome and congratulations.
Yay.
Welcome. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. First, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? And then we'll have some changes, I believe, to it.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And I believe you have some changes you would like to make.
President Patterson, managers, we'd like to take item 7B, which is approval of the permit 2025-011, and item 7D, which is approved modification of permit 2025-017, and move that to item 8A, items removed from the consent agenda. There's been some changes in the DNR general permit that we would like to discuss with the managers as it pertains to those two permits.
Okay.
I'd like to pull a couple of things.
Okay.
C and E.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
C and E.
I think those are the two main ones.
Any other changes at all to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. We'll need to do an individual roll call one more time. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes. So we've approved the agenda. Next, we are on to the public hearing for the 2026 budget and levy. So I'd like to call the public hearing for the budget and levy for 2026 to order. And I believe we need to have just a little bit of what the changes will be for us. Mr. Jeffrey.
President Pedersen, managers, we have brought this budget to you twice now, and this is the third time coming back tonight. We are taking public comment on this. We are not approving the budget and levy tonight. That will be done at the September 1st meeting for submittal to the Hennepin and Carver County auditors by September 15th. The original budget expenditures was 6.85 million and change. I have had conversations with the city of Eden Prairie, and if you will remember, about 4 months back, Lori Hack from the city of Eden Prairie came and presented to the managers about wanting to do a low salt design on their parking lot. So I have put money in for that. That's $75,000 for the 2026 budget cycle. And then we'll do the remaining 25,000 in the 2027 budget cycle. And then ironically, as Manager Ziegler pointed out last month, that, well, we should just keep the BOM money in. Well, the storms that we've had, the rainfalls we've had this year has resulted in further degradation of the BOM. to the point where it became hazardous again. So I was approached this time by Eden Prairie Parks and Recreation about fixing, and that has always kind of been the bottleneck before getting them on board, because we don't necessarily have the capacity in-house to undertake the project, but we did have the budget set aside. So I put 150,000 back in for that. So increase the budget 225,000, increasing the levy 225,000. So instead of being basically a 2.5% reduction in the levy over last year, it's a 2.5% increase over last year's levy. Compare that to the 2025 to 2024, where we increased the levy by 7.6%. I still think it's a manageable levying amount.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. Do we have any public comments on the 2026 budget and levy? Am I not seeing anything? Oh, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Cook.
Yes, thank you. My name's Larry Cook, 471 Bighorn Drive, Chanhassen. With respect to the budget, first of all, I don't believe it's adequately reported or been provided. Certainly not consistent with years past, especially when I was a manager. There's no basis, at least what I pulled up had no basis for comparisons, no detail as to the various items that were listed. And I don't think it's adequate information on which the public to even comment on the budget, much less for the board to approve it. Also, I would object, even as the budget is, for spending any money with respect to Spring Road, as you all know, that's still under a litigation on that basis, and I believe that's illegal. I've already gone through that, it's all in the court papers on that basis. So those are my comments to the budget. And secondly, and I'll say this again when they have the general comments, I don't believe that there is a legal quorum for this meeting, given the fact that there are insufficient number of managers appointed in accordance with a statute, for one reason being that managers do not fairly represent the various hydrologic areas. And as you also know, that is the question of a lawsuit. And so those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Do we have anybody else here in the audience that wishes to comment on the budget and levy, or secondhand? David Benedict.
Hi,
Go
everyone.
ahead.
David Benedict, Lake Susan resident. Just to echo Mr. Cook's comments, I can't find the budget. I found a 2-pager on the website. So if anyone has a more fulsome budget depiction, that would be very helpful. Granted, I wasn't part of the earlier discussion. So can someone tell me where to find it, first of all?
And Pedersen managers, it should be in the July meeting packet on the website.
Okay.
As well as the year.
And then Terry, can you comment in the 2026 budget, is there a line item for the spent lime rehabilitation or an alternative for Lake Susan Pond?
President Pedersen, managers. So we are doing with Lake Susan, just like we've done the adaptive management, lake management plan for everything. So it'll be the first 2 years, starting next year, 26, we'll do the first year of vegetation management. 2027, we'll do the second year of vegetation management. And then in the fall of 2027, we'll do the first alum treatments. So yes, money is allocated in the budget for the first year's vegetative management of lakes.
Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the term vegetative management. Is that the Upper Creek restoration? Or are you referring specifically to the spent lime treatment of the incoming pond water?
So there are President Pedersen managed, so there are a number of different things within the lake. So the spent lime facility itself, which was constructed in 2014, 2015, on the south side of Lake Susan, is operable. It's just not large enough to treat all of the water that's coming out of that wetland. So there is money that is allocated for next year to work on the wetland itself to look at an alum treatment or other management within that wetland. There is money in 2026, actually beginning this year and into 2026 to complete the Upper Riley Creek Stream
Yes.
Restoration Project. So
And I'm
that is,
not-
yep, that is allocated for.
Yes, and I'm not referring to the Upper Creek. I think my concern is that we've now had, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at least 5 years of recorded failure of the spent lime system, especially early in the summer season. So I do take your point that it's operable now, but I believe it's been inoperable most Mays and Junes of each year for the past 5 years. So my concern would be that if we're allocating money to a system that continues to fail, it just seems like a waste.
Yeah, there is no money allocated to the spent lime system in 2026.
So can you be more clear? Like, so if it's not to the spent lime on the pond, are you doing an aluminum treatment to the pond next summer?
So we are doing, so there's a spent lime facility on the south side. Then there is the Lake Susan Park Pond iron enhanced sand filtration and irrigation, and that is fully functional.
Yes,
There-
but that's a different pond. That's on the northwest side. I'm talking about the southwest side. There's a spent lime treatment facility that you just said is not getting any budgetary funds and we know has had issues. So are we just not treating that pond next year? Is that what I'm hearing?
That does not treat a pond, that treats the wetland that's coming to Lake Susan from the south. And we are using the funding to look, because we know that that wetland is a significant loader to Lake Susan. And that wetland puts out more volume of water than can be treated in that spent lime facility. So we are looking at a direct treatment to the wetland, typically
Okay.
probably through an aluminum sulfate application.
And that's budgeted for next year?
That is correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just as a point of clarity, I'm Phil Sura, I'm also on Lake Susan. I believe that facility wasn't even, and you touched on this, wasn't even operating until about a month. Is that correct?
President Pedersen, do you want to wait for him to actually enter?
Yes,
We did his
please.
public comment, so
We need your name and we need your address, please.
Phil Sura, 85
Thank you.
and on Lake Susan. So I'm a few houses down from David Bennett. I'm new to this, so I don't want to speak out of turn or improperly, but we're very concerned because the Lake Susan is rated the worst out of all the lakes on the chain. And a number of the neighbors, about 12, just recently, we got tired of failed procedures, and each of us invested $2,000 to have some of the weeds eliminated and taken from the lake. And so I guess we're looking for options to correct the problem that we have on the lake. I've been a resident on the lake for the last 20 years, and the last couple of years have absolutely been the worst. And we have a lot of young couples or couples with young kids, and they're concerned about even having their kids swim in the water. So at any rate, we're going to go to the city to see if we can get some reimbursement for the funding to take the weeds out. The opinion of the group that came in to take the weeds out is that the city or this group, I'm still, David may know, they're still cutting weeds or using chemicals to try to kill some of the weeds on the other side of the lake. And so we're trying to attack half of it. I don't know if it's effective. All that I know is after 20 years, Lake Susan doesn't look very good. So a lot of information there. I know that this is tied to the budget. I sat in on one of the first meetings that I attended about a month ago and discovered that the processing or the little plant
on the east side or the west side of the lake wasn't operational at all until, just right before that meeting. So a couple of thoughts there. How are we going to invest this year and can we, as an association, informal association, we're trying to formalize it, meaning everybody that lives on the lake kicking in and actually hiring out and taking the weeds out in the process. Or what I've heard from the team coming out is that over the years these weeds have collected. I'm being told that the temperature is actually rising because everything is simply dying at the bottom of the lake. I don't know if that's the case, but we certainly do not have a strong base for the lakeshore. So hopefully some of those random thoughts make sense. We're trying to make an effort as homeowners ourselves in order to basically clean up the lake, but we would appreciate some assistance beyond what we've been doing for the last 15 years.
Thank you.
President Pedersen, managers. So again, so with our adaptive lake management plan, we've done the watershed projects, which be Lake Susan, the Upper Riley Creek, the Lake Susan reuse. And he's right, it has not been functioning. We had a problem with it losing prime. We redid the design this year, so now the water is entering directly into the manhole and coming from there. It has been working this year. The spent lime facility we talked about, it functions, it's just not size large enough to take that entire volume. So we have money set aside to do the wetland to the south. We will complete the Upper Riley Creek restoration project this winter. And then next year we will begin the vegetation management because we need to control the invasives plants there before we can start doing an alum treatment, because you'll just have a proliferation of further plants on that. So the next 2 years will be lake management, vegetation management with an alum treatment at the end of 2027, which is what we did with Lake Riley, and that's being delisted. What we did with Rice Marsh Lake, that's being delisted, and what we did with Highland Lake, which is being delisted. So we expect to have the same results. Just we couldn't do all of the lakes at one time. Unfortunately, someone had to be at the end of the line. He is correct in that Lake Susan has significantly poor water quality at this time, and so it is our priority, and that's why we have budgeted that as our focal point for 2026 and 2027.
Okay, one last comment and then let you continue. So if we're at the bottom, if we're the worst of all the lakes, can we accelerate this process so it doesn't take 5 years in order to get to a higher standard or a higher level?
President Peters, it'll be two years. We don't have, now would not be the time to be doing vegetation management in season. So we'll do our survey on the lake, plant survey, delineate the area that's going to be treated, decide how we're going to do it, if we're going to do a whole lake fluoridone treatment or if we're going to do some other type of treatment on the lake. After the 2027 alum treatment, you will see results. You will see an increase in water quality and water clarity on that lake. So it will be a 2-year process to get you there.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments on the 27 or 26 budget and levy? I don't see anything else.
I had one more. I guess I would like a comment from either Terry or the managers. It's strange that we're working up the creek and not down. Can someone comment on the budgetary strategy of putting so much money into Riley and Rice Marsh when they're fed from Susan? Like I'm trying to understand the priorities of the budget here.
Terry.
President Pedersen, managers, a lot of what we do, while we like to work from up in the watershed down, a lot of it is really opportunities as they present themselves. So for instance, the Middle Riley Creek project presented itself as something we can do. The other portion of it is we have the metric that scores our projects. And so if you look at our 10-year plan in chapter 9 of the 10-year plan, we work from the highest scoring projects down to the lowest scoring projects. And position in the watershed is one of the metrics that we look at, but it's not the sole metric that we look at. So
That's very helpful, Terry. Can you comment as to how then in that case Rice Marsh would score above Susan?
I would have to go back to the plan to see how it scored above Lake Susan. It may have been an opportunity that presented itself. That would have been.
When you say opportunity that presents itself,
So-
right? Like it's not a person. So are you saying that like yeah, like what does that mean?
President Pedersen managers, typically that's a partnership that presents itself.
So is this essentially that Eden Prairie has become a better partner than the city of Chanhassen? I mean, sorry, that's I can't let you say that. But is this because Eden Prairie is chipping in more money than Chanhassen? Is that a contributing factor? I'll put it that way.
That can be a contributing factor. It wasn't really in this case, though. It was that they wanted to be a part of it. Chanhassen was also a part of Rice Marsh Lake as well. So I would have to go back and look at that project, Rice Marsh Lake. The alum treatment on it did predate me, so I'd have to go back and look at the records for that and where it came to the top. I do know that there was a partnership to look at the fact that it is labile materials, which is another. So the substrate within Rice Marsh Lake is muck. It's a very organic bottom, which is what you're experiencing in Lake Susan. At that time, it was not known if alum was going to be effective in that substrate. So this was I think in many ways felt to be a more benign place to find out if in fact it would work than on a populated lake where residents would potentially be adversely affected by it. But again, I would have to go back and look more closely at that, which I'm happy to do, Mr. Benedict, and get back to you on that. I'm happy to do
No,
that.
I appreciate the answers. I think you can tell that we just feel like the lake has been a lower priority, despite having inhabitants on the lake and more aquatic use than some of your other watersheds, as your watershed surfaces. So appreciate that, and I think that you can see those of us on Lake Susan will be putting much closer spotlight on this budgetary process going into next year and the future years.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other comments on the budget and levy for 26?
President Pedersen, managers, if I may, just to both the gentlemen that spoke tonight, every February we have a Lake Association Summit, and not having a lake association, Lake Susan hasn't been invited to that, so we encourage you to come to that because it's a good chance for all of the lake associations to share ideas, to find out what the district's doing, and to get general education. So we'd love to have you
We
present.
have an unofficial association that will, I'm sure, become
Perfect.
official.
Great. Okay, great. With that, I will close the public hearing on the 26 budget and levy. And next go to matters of public interest. Does anyone have something that they would like to speak on for 3 minutes or less? Please state your name and your address. And Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Larry Cook, 471 Bighorn Drive in Chanhassen. I just repeat my comment that, this meeting lacks a quorum as far as I'm concerned of managers. Secondly, I don't know what you're going to be voting on Spring Valley property. That acquisition, as you know from the lawsuit, I believe violates multiple laws, and it was certainly premature to do anything with respect to that piece of property at that time. Secondly, I have a comment as to why the administrator's report and staff report are different. It would be, I think, easier for the public looking at it if they were combined, so that you're looking at the same topic about the same topics at the same time, whether it be administrator or that. And talking about the staff report, having dates of what the entries would be helpful. Some of those entries are way old, and unless you have been reading them all along, you wouldn't know that So adding dates as to various entries on the staff report would be very helpful. Also, with respect to the regulatory program report, I believe there's only one no permit listed, and I thought, my recollection is there were multiple no permits on prior reports, and if I'm correct, I'd like to know what happened to the other permit situations, or maybe the copy of the report, I didn't have everything about it. The engineer's report, maybe the primary thing I had is with respect to task order 52, having to do with going to U of M and wakes. The University of Minnesota, St. Anthony Falls just completed their study of the impact of wakes. And I suggest that TO 52 be amended to take into account that study and report to the board regarding that. With respect to the permit reports, one thing that stuck out, and it's always been an issue to me, is all the ponds and BMPs in there. And I know this is I know they call for maintenance agreements, but I'm concerned about the enforcement of those agreements, especially when you have multiple or possibly multiple owners, whether or not we're requiring performance bonds, et cetera, because this is going to be for the life of these properties. And with especially commercial properties failing, I'm concerned about having the money available to remediate these ponds, et cetera, in the future, not having enough money. And then finally, with respect to the treasurer report, it's not prepared in accordance with GAAP, yet there's no disclaimer about that on the report as there used to be. And it doesn't appear to me that the balance sheet at the end does not appear to me to correctly reflect the actual assets and liabilities that we have, especially concerning the Spring Road properties and obligations there. And with that, I am finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Anybody else have any comments that they would like to make during our public interest section?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Who am I looking at here?
Well, it should be, sorry, not familiar with this software. It should be listed as Jeannie Adamitis.
Okay, please could you give us your name and address?
This is Bob Adamitis. Address
Okay.
is 9503 Highview Drive, Eden Prairie. I'm a resident of Lake Riley. And my comment is actually more of a question, but the comment is that, as you are aware, or at least you should be aware, the water quality on Lake Riley this summer has just fallen off a cliff. One of our residents does SECI readings for MPCA and took one today, and the reading was 1 meter, which is probably as low as it's been since probably the first alum treatment 10 years ago. I know that the watershed district does water quality, takes water samples. I believe it's every other week or maybe less than that, but it is on a regular basis you take water samples. And my question is, what does the lake chemistry tell you as to why we're seeing this huge drop off in water quality this year?
Mr.
The
Jeffrey.
managers and Josh Maxwell is in there as well. And he can speak to the specific water chemistry that they're seeing. But this is not unique to Lake Riley. We are seeing it throughout the entire metropolitan area, and it was our hypothesis is that the prevalence of early rain followed by really warm weather right afterwards, followed by more rain, and then continued warm weather has just created this environment that's really conducive to the proliferation of algal blooms and on the lake. So we are seeing it everywhere throughout the district and throughout the metropolitan area. Our SECI readings have been low as well, but Josh, not to put you on the spot, but what have you been seeing in your sampling on Riley?
Yep. That's exactly what Terry just said is kind of our hypothesis right now. We do have Lake Riley scheduled to be cored, sediment coring to be occurring this fall to again check on the alum status because last year we did see a bump in hypolimnetic or bottom phosphorus concentrations. So we're going to see if that is also an issue. But not, yeah, across the metro area, there's been an increase in reports of harmful algal blooms, E. coli, because we had such significant rain events continuously, followed by those stagnant, very hot conditions causing, algae blooms across the district. We've seen it, and across the metro area. So
I'm curious, does the water temperature also have to be elevated or just the air temperature?
the water temperature does impact the algae blooms as well. So
Because after all the rain, every time we get rain, the water temperature drops. I've been out of town for a week, but the last time I was out in my boat, which has a thermometer, the water temperature was 80 degrees, which is actually not that warm compared to what we've seen in the past. Is that what you're seeing as well?
as far as temperatures, I'd have to look at our data specifically for Lake Riley, but um, if you get a flushing event, you could have a decline in water quality or water temperature. But yeah, I would have to look.
So one other question. There's been some literature available that says that because the smoke that we're experiencing from the Canadian wildfires, the particulate matter in that smoke that settles out on the lake also adds to the nutrient load in the lake. What's your feelings on that?
I would say it's possible, but I'm unaware of any studies right now, but we could look into that.
Is there somewhere on the website where you publish are they bi-weekly or bi-monthly, I mean?
Yeah, so the district collects water quality data on Lake Riley bi-weekly. We also have a grad student currently working on Lake Riley as well. So this year we actually have even higher definition of data. We will have, we do not post the data. We post it at the end of the year, not bi-weekly as it comes. But that's kind of our plan.
Okay, so does this fall under the category of this too shall pass, or what are we looking at for the long term?
Yeah, so lake climate conditions, lake conditions are always changing. Um, prior to this, we had 4 years of drought, very limited inputs of phosphorus and total suspended solids from our watershed. This year we got, rain essentially every week. We have auto sampling units, and I've been running around every week collecting our auto sampling unit data, which are triggered by rain events. So conditions can change and fluctuate within the lake and in the watershed, and the inputs can change. So we'll have to see this kind of.
And Mr. Adamitis, as we see climate change, when we see these increased rain events and increased temperatures, we may see this more often. That's one of the reasons, though, why we want to get the coring to find out if there's additional inputs going on in the lake from the sediment. I'd be happy if you'd like to give me a call or send me an email to sit down and meet with you and to go over our data and just provide a little more information to you.
That's great. Thank you. I'll get a hold of you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate all the info. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Matters of public interest.
Could I just make a couple comments based on what was said? It's Larry Cook. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
May I?
If you could limit your comments to less than 3 minutes, please.
Oh, well, definitely. I just wanted to comment. First of all, I noticed in the staff report, there wasn't a listing of Lotus having increased algal blooms, and it definitely has. And so we join with all the other lakes. Second thing I want to put out, this has been many years ago. There was a biologist who lived on Lotus Lake, and it was her conclusion based on her studies that we are discounting the impact of nitrogen on algal blooms. And because if you look at the chlorophyll atom, or molecule, at the middle of it is nitrogen. And and her opinion was, the aquatic biologist, we are ignoring the nitrogen, focusing on phosphorus, which is important, but we're not focusing on nitrogen in a lot of our lakes. Unfortunately, the water just runs down the hill into the lake, carrying way too much nitrogen. So those are my comments. Thank you for your indulgence. I appreciate it.
President Pedersen,
Yes.
managers, I to Mr. Cook's comment, with the whole lake water management plan, we are actually looking at nitrogen in those studies.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our matters of public interest. Next, we are to reading and approval of minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting in July.
That's submitted, but I do have a comment.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, any changes or comments?
One typo.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 5C, you've got Mitchell Lake and includes 14,00 square feet of upland. I believe that's supposed to be 1,400. Not 14.
Thank you. Manager Crafton?
Okay, so this was on the workshop. Carrie, I didn't remember this, but on page 2, line 31 to 32, it says he reminded the board the district will not receive any levy disbursement until about July of the next year. Now we get one 1st of July and one in December, so I wasn't sure what you're referring to there.
Until July, just that we'll have to have monies available for the beginning of the year. So we have to be careful of what we invest and what we spend, because it won't be until July till we get
But we
that.
do get money in
Yeah,
December.
we'll get our
First
December
July.
distribution and
Okay.
then, yeah.
Then the only other thing was just that, let's see, on line 46. He said the proposed levy is almost flat to last year. I would just put in compared.
Compared to last year.
Compared to last year's levy. That was what I did on that.
Manager Nelson, did you have something?
I did. I wanted to clarify on, I believe it's line 91 of within the manager reports, that the Lotus Lake high water level led to triggering the city of Chanhassen no wake ordinance. It's not, it didn't start a new one. It's just to clarify, to correct that.
Okay. Any other changes?
I had one other for the
Yes.
minutes of the meeting, monthly meeting. Morgan Jacobs, his name was misspelled. That's on line 8. You put an extra something in there. Anyway, it's not
And
spelled.
there's an extra N.
Yeah.
Okay, any other changes? I'm hearing none, so I need to do an individual roll call. Manager Crafton, yay or nay on approving the minutes? Manager Stovering.
Yay.
Manager Duval.
Yay.
Manager Nelson.
Yay.
And Manager Pedersen says yay. So we have approved the minutes of the July 25 workshop and regular meeting. Next, we're on to the committee and member reports. First is the July administrator report. Any comments at all, Manager Jeffrey, on the administrator report or staff report, or does any of the managers have questions for those two?
For President
Yes.
Pedersen. So it mentioned here about the permit, that it was expiring, but we'd been assured that we were going to get one, but it hadn't come through yet. I was just curious as to.
So, President Pedersen, Manager Kraft, and so, yeah, the DNR general permit, which we've been working with them since late February to get, has been difficult to get. But I spoke with the individual from the DNR just this week, and they have provided us the draft general permit as of yesterday. We are reviewing it, Engineer Sobiak and I. We anticipate having it in place by the end of this week or the beginning of next week. And that's actually, we'll talk about a little more when we get to two of the permits that we pulled off.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
Okay. President Pedersen, mine
Yes.
was on the same topic and just wanted to follow up. Does not having that, so it impacts our ability to do our job. Would you need our approval to say, contact like a local legislator or something to elevate it if needed to the DNR? Or is that something you have enough resources to move it along?
President Pedersen, Manager Nelson. Yeah, I could certainly reach out to the state. It's kind of interesting because one of the resolutions that's within the MOD resolutions is to improve the efficiency and dialogue with the DNR. So it is being elevated, right? Depending on the outcome of that resolution, it will be elevated to the state.
There've been a lot
But
of-
yes, I would have I could reach out.
There've been a lot of watershed districts having the same problem and commenting about this.
Okay, any other questions for Manager Jeffrey on the staff report or the administrator report?
President Pedersen, I will take the opportunity right now, instead of at the end of the meeting when we might be running out of time. I will be making reservations. I would like to make reservations for NISWA for the fall conference by the end of this next week, not the one we're on, but the following week, so we don't run into having, off-site accommodations, et cetera. So if there are managers that know they are not going to go, let me know. Otherwise, I will just make accommodations for everyone.
Okay, managers, you heard that. Got a call if you're not going.
Let me know if you're not going.
Okay, not hearing any other comments or questions. Off we are to the July engineers report. Any questions of Scott? Hearing none. The July regulatory report. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. Do we have a legal report? Mr.
Madam
Smith?
Chair, nothing specific to report.
Okay. And manager reports. Does any manager have a report?
Go
Yes.
first.
Manager Duval.
I'll just mention that in light of the changes in our managers on this board, our past manager Ziegler was no longer eligible to be on the Minnesota Watersheds Board, and I was selected to be the interim replacement for him until the fall meetings when there'll be a vote on a permanent replacement. So also, he was the treasurer of the Minnesota Watershed, and so now Director Fiera,
Done.
he's been appointed to take over the treasurer's role at Minnesota Watersheds. And the only other, this was a meeting I was just sitting in on. This was last week, so I was not participating in it. Just these are some of my notes. Again, I'm not that familiar with the interaction between Minnesota Watershed and the Clean Water Council, but I guess Marcy Wendand is going to be stepping down, and they're going to recommend Andy Herschel from Shell Rock River Watershed District to be a replacement. So that's all I have.
And thank you very much for stepping up to fill the interim position. That's really great. Any other manager comments? Manager Crafton?
Yeah, so I was at Isaac Walton Convention and there was a gentleman from University of Wisconsin, and he was talking about the importance of putting some economic numbers to some of the benefits so that when we don't count that enough. So when we're looking at a project, maybe there are ways to identify some of the better outcomes of ecosystem services or whatever, that there are ways to put some numbers to that so that we could, I was just thinking that might factor into when we're trying to do rules or something. So I'm going to reach out to him and send him a couple things and just see what he thinks. But I just thought that would be good information. That might be really helpful as we try to go forward and make a make a case for what we're doing, so.
Mhm. Sounds great. Okay, any other manager comments? Hearing none. We are now on the consent agenda, which is items A, F, G, H, and I. The other 4 items have been moved down to the new business section. So I am looking for a motion to accept A, F, G, H, and I.
So move.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. So all those in favor, again, I need to go through each manager's vote. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering. Yes. Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Aye, yes.
and Manager Pedersen says yes. So our consent agenda has been accepted. And we are now on to new business, which are the items that were removed from the consent agenda. So the first item is item B, which is permit 2025-001 Purgatory Creek Tributary Bank Stabilization Project.
President Pedersen, managers, this will actually apply to both 2025-011 and 2025-017. As we just briefly talked about, we rely on the DNR general permit to make some of our approvals because we are authorized under that general permit to permit on behalf of the Minnesota DNR. That permit expired on May 1st. We've been working with the DNR to get to a point where it was reissued. We have received a draft permit. We will have that permit in place hopefully by the end of this week or the next week. Now, where this really tends to make a problem is if an applicant comes in expecting to get everything authorized under our permit with the general permit, then they have to go back to the DNR to go through the MPOwer program. It's another 30 to 60 days. So since we have this permit in place and these 2 permits were reliant, we were telling them they needed to go back and get a DNR permit. And we now have one in place. We would like to add a condition that we worked out with Michael Welch. And I will let Engineer Sobiak speak more specifically to that.
I think just to clarify, what we're looking at doing is making sure that we've got this condition added to both of these permits. We're saying that because the permit expired, the applicant needs to either go to the DNR and get a permit or get written permission from the DNR that the general permit will apply once it's reissued to the district. So that way, hopefully they can just get an email and say, yes, it applies for.
Okay, so basically what you're looking for is us to approve 2025-001, 2025-017 with the changes that you have listed there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Looking for a motion for that.
I move to approve it.
Thank you. I need a second.
Is,
Manager Duval?
question.
Go ahead.
Is that a sentence, the revised condition 3? I'm trying to make sense of that as a sentence.
Sentence would be the highlighted part only.
Right, the applicant receiving a specific permit issued for work. I'm not sure what you're authorizing them to do the work. It's like, it feels like the action is missing in there.
It is. Right above this, what we typically put in a permit is we recommend approval contingent upon. And then
Okay,
this,
thank you. Thank you. It does not read as a complete sentence. That was my problem.
Any other questions before we vote on this? Hearing none. Manager Crafton, yay or nay?
Yay.
Manager Stovering?
Yay.
Manager Duval?
Yay.
Manager Nelson?
Yay.
Director Pedersen, yay. So we have passed 2025-001 and 2025-017. Next item on the new business would be the permit 2025-012. I believe you pulled that, Manager Crafton.
And I also looked up B. I just wanted to make a comment on how really good I thought that project was that Minnetonka's doing. I thought it was really exceptional because they're like their minimum widths are way over and their average width was considerably higher. And I was having a lot of trouble with some of these other permits that we're looking at today because we're seeing less permits. I mean, the minimum required, we're not meeting that. And it just seems like there's a trend here. So maybe I'm not reading this correctly, but okay, so which one was C was 12?
Yes. Santa Vera Apartments project.
Yeah, so like on this one, on page 5, when we're looking at a volume abstraction. So the required abstraction is 1.1, but we're only getting 0.19. And then when it comes to the cubic feet, required is 7,912 and we're getting 1,900 something. So I just, if those are the requirements we're setting out, why are we falling so far below those?
President Pedersen, Manager Crafton. What you're pointing out is you're pointing out the volume control criteria that are part of the rules. The threshold, the initial criteria is 1.1 inch of abstraction off of the impervious surface. If the applicants are able to demonstrate that the site is restricted for various reasons, then they can fall into a restricted site criteria, which is give us 0.55 inches off of the impervious surface. If it's even hyper restrictive, it's maximum extent practicable. So in this instance, they are providing abstraction to the maximum extent practicable because there was high groundwater observed on site. They don't have adequate separation between the bottom of a proposed BMP and the groundwater level. So the rules prohibit that. And for the abstraction that they are providing, they are essentially irrigating all of the green space on the site.
I was curious as to where they're finding the green space if they can't meet these other requirements.
Manager Crafton, again, we reply to the plans that are given to us that the cities approve in terms of the amount of imperviousness. So they're looking at all the green space, the existing green space north of the existing building. And then there's green space around their BMPs as well on the east side of the building.
I guess my concern here is as looking down the road, if we're going to try to adjust our rules so that we're not, I mean, the problem is the design of what they're trying to do in that space. I mean, that's what's creating the restricted site, right? So it's like, I think this has got to be a major concern for us as we go forward, that we are addressing this. What's brought to us and what's considered a restricted site. And maybe I'm just not getting it, but I just keep seeing this pattern over and over again. And it seems like I'd like to see us have a discussion about how we address this. Or is there a way to have a better resolution or expectations of the outcome at the beginning?
President Pedersen, managers. So this is meeting the standard, and the reason the standard is written this way, because we knew we would have these sites. So for instance, having somebody infiltrate without that separation of the groundwater is actually potentially more detrimental than just treating the water and running it off site, because now you're introducing the contaminants directly to it. So that's why the standard was written specifically so it didn't become a variance, because we knew that these would come. I mean, even if they doubled the green space, they still weren't going to meet that 1.1. Even if they tripled the green space, they still
Because of the high groundwater. Okay, now I get that part. I get the separation, the need for that.
Yeah. So it will always be the case, but yes, I think when we have the rules, we should have this discussion and help explain either why we get to a point that we're at, or can it be modified in some manner, shape, or form. But right now, it's what we're working
All
with.
right, I just wanted to point that out because
Yeah.
Andrew Nelson.
Just to follow up for the restricted sites, is the basic concept that we are not going to, with our rules, stop development of a site. They have to just do if the city is on board with them doing it, they can, through our restricted site, they just have to do the best they can and basically meet at least the pollution, the nutrient treatment.
President Pedersen, Manager Nelson, that's a very good way to look at it. With the district responds to developments that are brought in, that the cities approve. The cities have the land use authority for the development and what they can and cannot build on the site. Once they decide on that, then they come to us. And now that they've decided what they want to build, they have to meet these certain criteria. And with the criteria, there's flexibility built in for these restricted sites for this reason. Like Administrator Jeffrey indicated, we knew we were going to run into this. And yes, you may think land use is causing this, but in reality, they have high groundwater out there. They dug holes to do infiltration testing, and those holes filled with water. So we really don't want them to infiltrate in this to potentially pollute groundwater. So.
But President Pedersen, Manager Nelson, to this point, that's why having Chanhassen add us to the development review team and the Bloomington is so nice, because we can get there beforehand. So we don't have applicants coming to us at the end and go, wait a sec, what the heck? So yeah, it's be nice.
I guess that's what I was hoping for. Is there a way to do more preventative work here at the upfront? Because we want good, I mean, if people are buying land and they have a purpose and they want to do something, we don't want to be standing in their way, but it's also got to be workable with water quality in there.
It's a balance.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, if you got your questions answered, I am now looking for a motion to approve permit 2025-012. Anybody?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, once again, I'll need to do an individual roll call. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval.
Is it yes or yay?
Yay,
Yay.
yay, whatever. Manager Nelson
Yay.
and Manager Pedersen says yay, so it's approved 5-0. Next, you pulled item permit 2025-038, Manager Crafton, on Aspen Estates Assisted Living.
Okay. My question was, where's the volume going? Maybe I just totally missed that. Where are we sending the water?
Manager Crafton, in this instance, they found suitable soils on the site. They are able to infiltrate the water.
All right. Okay, I'll let it go at that.
Okay, I am again looking for a motion to approve permit 2025-038.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
I second.
Second, great. And here's the roll call vote. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes. It's approved 5-0. Next, we are on to item 8B, which is adopt resolution 25-044, accepting the May treasurer's report and approving payment of the bills. May I hear a motion to,
Acceptance of the treasurer's report.
thank you.
A second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes. 5-0. Next, we are on approving revised permit 2024-096 Fox Ridge Development. And I believe there was some comment here. Mr. Sobiak.
Managers, what you have before you is a revised permit application for the Fox Ridge development on the west side of Lotus Lake. We talked about this last month. The applicant has revised the submittal. So again, we're looking at demoing an existing home, constructing 3 single-family homes, preserving a lot of the trees that are there. The area shown in green is tree preservation area, providing a wetland buffer, providing full stormwater treatment with underground stormwater BMPs to infiltrate the water. The one significant change that they made is they pulled the proposed outfall that was going to be in contact with the bed and bank of the lake away from the lake, so it's no longer touching the better bank of the lake. And as a result, it essentially no longer triggers a work in public waters permit or approval from the district under Rule G. They are otherwise compliant with all the criteria. We have a couple of the typical conditions that we're recommending: maintenance agreements, maintenance declarations for the buffers in the stormwater management facilities, replenishment of a permit fee deposit, and then a financial assurance. With that, I will open it up to questions.
Manager Pedersen?
Excuse me,
President.
Manager Stover first.
Yeah, I
Oh.
guess my main concern is we have 3, what I would consider complicated stormwater management practices on private lots. How, they're not gonna have any clue the cost, the maintenance needs, whatever, when they purchase that lot. I mean, I can just see this is a problem in the making. And I'm just, myself, I'm very concerned with this type of stormwater practice on private property. If we're gonna do something this complicated, it should be in the right of way and it should be a city problem. They're the only ones that have the knowledge to maintain those. That's my concern.
Manager Nielsen, you have a comment?
Mine was along the same veins. In addition, do we have any inspection or oversight enforcement authority, like if they're maintaining their 3-foot vegetative strips in the woods for infiltration, you know, in addition to the stormwater management, do they have to self-report? Do we inspect? Does anybody check on this?
President Pedersen, managers. So the owners of the best management practice, which in this case would be the private landowners, are required to submit an annual report to the district. Compliance to that is suboptimal. When it is a best management practice that is treating a larger area, we will go out to it, but we simply do not have the staff resources to go look at each individual site and assure compliance. So it is a legitimate concern, and when I brought up the developer.
What would you like to do, managers?
You've got ideas on how to take this forward.
Yes.
Managers, I just want to point out that the rules, the maintenance requirements are pretty well spelled out in the rules. They have provided draft maintenance declarations that are generally compliant. There's a few minor tweaks that need to be made, but declarations, the drafts at least, are compliant with what we would require of anybody else.
But this type of practice is not typically on a private residential lot. I mean, this is an underground system, which would be very expensive to replace if something happened. And I was going to ask about this, the new outlet that leads to the lake. They pulled it up, but are we worried about erosion at that point, or?
Manager Sobering, they did pull it up away from the lake. There is a vegetated strip that they'll have the outfall. The flared end section will be there. They will install riprap with a small stilling basin to dissipate the energy. And then there's a small strip of vegetation before it actually gets to the lake. And they have reduced the velocities down, so they should be less than what would cause erosion.
So they decide they want a better view of the lake and cut all of it down.
And as long as it's properly maintained.
There is a drop structure prior to the last section of pipe that all the
Yeah, I
energy
see
comes
that
out
now.
of.
Yep.
Manager Duval.
So So for our engineer, just how are the new homeowners, how are they made aware of this? And is this part of a homeowners association? Is it connected to the deed requirements, or is it just how do we maintain that connection? How do they maintain or get knowledge of the responsibility they have as a homeowner? One of the three people.
And how to maintain it and how to pay for it and how much it's gonna cost.
Managers, so it is recorded on their property. So it is a part of their deed in terms of.
The details of what we're talking about right now.
Correct. They will, the declaration will describe what maintenance needs to be done. And there's a drawing in there that will then show where that BMP is located. It includes not only the underground system, but also the vegetated swales. In terms of when the applicant or when the owners get informed, we actually have the applicant here, the property owners, that maybe they could speak to it as well in terms of what their process is to making sure the homeowners understand the responsibility. So
maybe we could hear from them.
Wait, we'll have you a microphone.
Hello.
Okay.
That's for the folks at home.
Daniel Phillips, Denali Custom Homes. All three homeowners have been told what these systems are. They've been told of the maintenance practices. They've been told of what they need to do for the upkeep for them. We have emails that we sent to both of them as well, as documentation from them that they have given us the right to apply for them. So they're all aware that we are here speaking on their behalf for these BMP systems. These BMPs were designed by Alliant here, civil engineers, the city of Chanhassen. This was all agreed upon. It was originally, I believe, a somewhat agreed upon by you. I don't remember what they called it, a conditional permit or something of that nature. The lot sat for a little while, so we lost that permit because it just took some time to sell the lots themselves. This is now all privately owned. It's been recorded with them. The city has maintenance agreements recorded with them as well. The city of Chanhassen has this plat. They have everything that involves these BMPs, including the outflows and all of that. So technically, the city does also have overview of these, you would say. I can't speak to whether or not they're going to maintain them or whether or not they're actually going to go and inspect them. But not only are you of knowledge of them, they're of knowledge of them. And so are all three of the private homeowners that are going to own these BMP systems.
So is there any notion of what it costs on an annual basis to maintain these, or if there was ever an issue, what it would cost to come out and have somebody?
I don't personally have that information. I know this isn't the first time we've put these BMP systems on private property. I can tell you we've done 3 or 4 of these. You guys might not see them that frequently, but there are other watersheds very nearby here that we have done these for.
With multiple owners?
Each owner has their own BMP system per lot. If you look at the plat, technically speaking. So each one would be in charge of their own lot's BMP.
Okay, so so in this case, there's a system for 3 people, right? 3 parties?
Not necessarily, no. Each lot has their own system. The third lot actually has an outflow that goes to the gifted water, the gifted outlot, which is also a water wetland. And they have their own BMP system with their own outflow. Lot 2 has their own BMP system, and lot 1 has their own BMP system. They only share an outflow. What would you call that, Tyler? Overflow type? I don't know.
Yeah,
The BMPs are per lot. It's not one big system that they all feed to.
So I'm kind of getting at is, again, if there's no homeowners association that can enforce, we've got a problem here, so they enforce the cost of fixing it amongst all the parties. So if one person decides they're not going to pay or they don't have the ability to pay, does the responsibility fall on the remaining 2?
No, because it's per BMP per lot.
So it's.
So if lot 3 decides to
individually
not
on
fix their
lot.
BMP, it's not lot 2 or 1's
Is-
issue, lot 3's issue.
Is lot 1 responsible for the outfall, keeping that clear?
That is correct. That is within their management agreement. that is on lot 1.
And keeping it clear for, because they take a lot of runoff from lot 2.
Yes, ma'am. Each lot
I
has
hear,
their own specific management agreement
Because there's two.
per what the lot needs to do based upon the structures that are built on each lot, if that makes sense. And I mean, this is just an off-topic comment, but these are private landowners. The city doesn't require them to have an HOA. I don't know if a watershed can require somebody to have an HOA, but that seems like a little bit overreach to me, and I just want to make that
I
comment.
guess the comment was more in regard to the degree that they're linked together and one party doesn't come up with their portion of the repairs or maintenance or whatever, does that make the whole system go down?
I mean, Tyler could speak to that. He's the engineer.
If two of the, one of the parties, for one reason, they can't
Or don't.
they can't fork over to make the fix, does the responsibility then fall on the remaining two? And looking for the obligation as to who's responsible if there's a problem and not all three parties are there to respond.
The two that contribute to the outfall of the lake. I mean, that's two.
So
Yeah. So Tyler Strickers, the project engineer with Align Engineering on the plans. I designed all 3 of the underground systems. Specifically speaking to the west lot 3, it's 100% on its own. All of the water, all of the impervious treatment volume that is being contributed to the underground system is coming from its own lot. It has absolutely so if lot 3 were not to do any maintenance, it would have no impact on lots 2 or lot 1 underground systems. None of the water from lot 3 goes to lots 1 or 2.
But it goes into the wetland.
It goes into the wetland, which
Right.
then
Could
eventually
degrade.
gets to the lake anyways,
Could degrade the
because
Okay, what about 2 and 1?
Yep. So lot 2, the only reason that it's connected is to in higher rainfall events, it will outflow. If lot 2, right, does not maintain their system, specifically just the underground basin, we'll just talk about, that will have no effect on lot 1 system because it's 100% offline. So the only thing that lot 2 is connected to lot 1 is the outflow in large events to the lake. Lot 1's own infiltration basin, underground system, right, treats lot 1's impervious requirements only. It has absolutely no bearing on lot 2 except for the outlet. And it's the outlets are sized appropriately for 10-year storm events per city watershed regulations. They have 50-year, it's RCP, reinforced concrete pipe, rated for a 50-year lifespan.
And the drop structure get filled with sediment or?
It can, and per
then
the maintenance agreement, it is required to be removed on an annual basis.
by two homeowners. They would have to agree to pay.
Technically, the maintenance agreement is on lot 1. It is lot 1's responsibility to remove that sediment. Just for frame of reference, removing the sediment in the drop, you get a vac truck. It's an hour's worth of time. It's maybe at most $500 to have that removed. Cities do this all the time with 4-foot sumps. Every city requires a 4-foot sump ahead of the last structure in front of a BMP.
Any other comments, managers?
I think that, President Pedersen, this is,
Yes.
So just clarifying really that lot 1 is taking the obligation of lot 2 for the outfall.
Mhm. That's
That
correct.
is correct.
That is correct.
Managers.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is this, while this is clearly a suboptimal situation, it is compliant with our rules.
Mhm.
I do not see it as grounds for not approving it. I do see it as an important topic of conversation for how we want to address these moving forward.
In other
Mhm.
words, the change in our rules to look at these in a different way
Yeah.
over the next 10-year plan period.
And part of that is due to the fact that there's less and less properties to be developed and
Right.
people are having to figure out how to do something that wasn't designed for 10 or 20 years ago.
Right.
We're going to see more and more of these.
We're going to see more and more of them. That's what's going to happen. New York Times just had an article in it 2 days ago about odd-shaped lots in bigger cities like New York City and Chicago, where they've never been able to build anything, and now they're attempting to put big buildings on these little tiny weird lots. And the same issues that we're talking about here is what's happening to them. They don't know how to do it. How do you jackknife this little thing in? The city does not want that built. What are they going to do with all the water? It doesn't work with the rest of the systems that are all around it. I don't think we're any exception. I think this is just normal for every metro area in the United States now.
I think it's a robust discussion to be had. You know, do we look at fee and lieu? Do we look at banking? Do we look at
Right.
regional systems? Do we, how do we want to address these moving forward?
I think our issue is that we cannot deny this permit based on what our rules are right now.
Exactly.
Correct. It is compliant. with
That's
our-
the
it meets
problem.
Our standards.
One final question. Is there like a minimum maintenance of clearing out things, or is that purely on their inspections for, say, clearing out that 4-foot settling basin before the outlet?
Managers, that's typically part of the maintenance declaration and it's recorded as annually.
Okay.
Okay, I am looking for a motion to accept revised permit 2024-096 Fox Ridge Development.
Also move.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. And to our vote, Manager Crafton, Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen. Gee, I really don't want to say yes, but I have to.
Thank you all.
Okay, so that passes 5-0. Next is the variances from rules B and J for modification to permit 2024-078. And would you like to address all three of these aviendas at one time, or do you want to take each one separate?
I think we can talk about the first two together.
Okay.
The third one's a separate permit, so.
Okay, go ahead.
And President Managers, while he's getting this all set up, I will note that the applicant and the engineer are in the virtual audience in case you have specific questions for them.
Okay,
So managers, this is a modification request to a permit that was conditionally approved back in January. I'm going to go through a little bit of background so we're all back up to speed on the same page, talking about Avienda. This started back in 2017, I think, is when we first started talking about this, and it's continuing to go. So.
Yeah, because that's when I came here.
So here, background information on the left-hand side, that's pre-project condition, farm fields, wetlands, old farmstead. Then the first conditional approval was in September of 2018. And that was to come in and build the roadway network and some temporary BMPs and permanent BMPs for the imperviousness at that time. Flip forward here now on the left side, I have the phase 1 work, which was conditionally approved in 2018. You can see all the different Stars I have up there, the red ones being what they were thinking would be infiltration basins, the blue ones being wet ponds. They revised their design, their layout a little bit. They got rid of one of the loop roads through here. So then they changed their BMPs accordingly. Only to come back. To modify phase one and add some additional phase two to it. And the modification was connected to the fact that their infiltration rates that they used during the design for a clay site, even though they were very low, they went out and actually did testing and came back with rates even lower than what the MPCA would recommend for a clay soil. Many of their tests came back at infiltration rates of 0. So they had to redesign their stormwater management for the system, for the site. They went to a lot of wet detention basins, biofiltration basins, and stormwater reuse. Collect the water, reuse it on the associated green space for the roadway network that is in here, as well as the townhomes and villas that they were constructing. Which those are nearing completion. Phase one, the roads are in, the townhome and villas are under construction. Showing again here the irrigation area in the purplish blue, so they're irrigating everything that's pervious.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yeah. Okay, I finished this.
Moving
Promissory
forward,
note.
they came in 2023 and asked for some approval for the next phase of construction, which is their row homes construction, shown here. And at that point, some of the site was already developed. So then we had to look at, well, what is the new site boundary? And that reduced it down to what's shown in red. They provided stormwater management for that site, the way it sits, as well as with the new proposed development on the western portion of that site. You can see their existing BMPs that were out there at the time, some wet basins and a biofiltration basin. Now with the phase 3 going in, wet basins remain, although one of them was changed. Got some tree trenches, another reuse system going in to irrigate the green space for that development, that portion of the development. And as they were working and moving forward, they wanted to come in and take a more regional approach at this point. Say, well, here's what's left to build out. How can we better manage stormwater holistically rather than piecemealing it permit by permit, subparcel by subparcel? So that's what you have here before you today is a regional consideration of a regional stormwater management plan. On the left side is what's been approved and what's been constructed out there so far, although some of this is still under construction, the row homes out here. Again, you can see the area that we're talking about in terms of the regional stormwater, these undeveloped areas. There are existing stormwater BMPs that sit out there, primarily wet ponds and some biofiltration. What they're looking at doing is a regional stormwater plan to manage stormwater across the entire site. For that, they were looking at doing stormwater reuse. Again, they have the clay soil, so they can't infiltrate. So stormwater reuse, wet detention basins, and then replacing the one wet detention basin with an underground system. And this is what the managers conditionally approved back in January. Fast forward a few more months, and they need to make some minor adjustments. In that, I'm showing on the left what was conditionally approved in January, and on the right is what they're looking for approval now. The real change that you look at, I don't know if my cursor's moving around, but they're moving the wet basin, the wet detention pond from the eastern edge of the site to locate it centrally in the site, along with the reuse system and their manufactured treatment device. That's primarily what the change is.
President Pedersen, Is this change partly because of the approval of the community center, or is that not part of this?
That is not part of this.
So that's in the future perhaps, or?
So managers, what Manager Nelson is talking about is the city of Chanhassen is looking at developing a community center on the southern portion of the site. And that will come in as a separate permit. We have had early dialogue discussions with the city about that.
President Pedersen, managers, that drains to Bluff Creek. That drains to a different watershed entirely, and it wasn't part of the regional system. So it really doesn't even need to be considered in this.
It is part of the regional system.
Is it part of the regional
It
system?
is. Yes.
But
So
they're not managing stormwater on site, then they're taking it off.
the regional system will manage stormwater for the areas that are outlined in blue. So there are two different real drainage areas. One, the large area goes to Lake Susan. The southern portion and the northern portion drain off to Bluff Creek. So they will be managing stormwater for these three areas that would meet the criteria.
Scott, am I wrong in thinking that the middle section in there was originally a pond they filled in?
It was originally a wetland,
It was a wetland they filled in, correct?
very large wetland.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's reverting back.
Now they're putting it back to a water storage area. Huh.
Centrally located water feature.
Uh-huh.
Are there poor soils there from the former wetland? Is that kind of what they're looking at?
That wetland is like 15, 18 feet deep now.
Okay.
It's
They're not
the
even
whole
close.
site's been graded. The wetland, the soils are no longer there from the wetland.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the water table's gotta be somewhat higher underneath that.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's soils,
Yeah.
water
so
table.
The actual water table is significantly lower out here, so groundwater is not a concern.
But really, what they're asking is just to reconfigure the
Right.
regional.
I think we all agreed that having a regional stormwater management plan was better than what the alternative was when we passed this. And I think what they're doing is they're just shifting things around a little bit
Yes.
to make it work. So I personally don't think this is a problem.
So managers, I can point out a couple of other things. With this change, they've increased the regulated impervious surface a little bit. It was 37.25 acres. They're now asking for 39.95. And then they're also, we'll talk about this with the next permit as well, but this underground system that's proposed to replace the storage, floodplain storage that's being lost for the wet pond that's being filled. It's shown in this regional plan for conceptual purposes, but that actual work would happen by the apartment building when they do their construction.
Uh-huh.
So basically, they're gonna build it concurrently with the development.
Mhm.
And it could change again.
And it could change again, right?
So is this like the city of Chanhassen with their regional system having some transition time where it was less desirable, but the overall project is better for the site?
Mini version of it.
It is similar.
Fair?
It,
Okay.
Nelson, it is similar to that, with the exception of there is a set timeline for the city of Chanhassen too. So no, I take that
Right.
back.
Yeah, they had a pretty strict timeline that they were doing things in.
This,
So managers, because they are asking for a modification, we're presenting that there are a couple of variances that would need to be reapproved and then a reapproval of the modification. In terms of the variances, again, these are the same things we talked about, compensatory storage for floodplain storage. The requirement is you're supposed to provide the compensatory storage in the floodplain that you're filling. Well, these floodplains that they're filling, stormwater BMPs are gone. So they're saying, well, we're going to put it in a different stormwater BMP in a different location. And that's what they're asking. And that's why they need the variance. Again, they are providing more storage, a net increase in floodplain storage than what sits out there today.
Okay.
So for those reasons, I'm finding that there is adequate technical information for the managers to rely on to grant a variance.
So question for you, what is stormwater reuse? You mentioned that earlier.
So collecting all the runoff from your impervious surfaces in
Going into these
stormwater
ponds.
pond and then irrigating,
Using it for
using that
irrigation.
water to irrigate this.
And
green
that's
space.
a feasible system doing that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not using groundwater, instead you're
yeah, yeah.
reusing.
Yeah, but it's suitable to,
Yeah.
it's not filled with
Oh, yeah.
silt and
Yeah, well,
because they have.
they'll still have to, the irrigation people will still have a lot to deal with.
I mean, if there's a drought. there's
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of wells and stuff.
So I am looking for a motion to approve permit 2024-078 for Avienda.
Looking for approval of the variance.
Variances.
Variances, excuse me.
I,
Modification, approve variances for rules B and J.
Variances first and then the modification.
And then the modification for the permit. Do I
I
hear?
move to approve the variance, the two variances and the modification of the permit.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do an individual roll call. Manager Crafton. Manager Stovering.
Yes.
Manager Duval.
Yes.
Manager Nelson.
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes. It's approved 5-0. And next we are on to the Avienda Apartments, which is permit 2025-029. I'm assuming this is Mr. Sobiek again?
Yes, you did. Variance and the modification.
Managers?
Yeah.
This is a follow-up to the discussion we just had about Avienda. Now, there is somebody actually looking to develop a portion of that site that's part of the regional stormwater management system. They're looking at developing in 11.7 acres of the site. Currently, this is where there was the one regional stormwater pond that will be transferred into an underground stormwater system. Really, this is the first time the district would be approving a permit under a regional stormwater management plan. So that's why we wanted to talk about it a little bit with you. They'll approve it underneath the stormwater plan, the regional stormwater management plan we just discussed, the compensatory storage. This applicant will be building that. And then they are also looking at irrigating 2.89 acres of this, which is essentially all the pervious area on the site. Tapping into the network, the piping network that the other applicant will be constructing. So it's a regional reuse system, and then each individual property owner installs their irrigation system. One of the real benefits of that is you have one irrigation system instead of 15 of them sitting out here.
Any questions from any of the managers?
President Pedersen.
Yes.
Just, so you say they're all individually responsible. So like this apartment complex, are they overarching as the like Avienda management company? I'm not sure how this is structured exactly. Responsible for the regional reuse system, or is each, like, is this complex responsible for those themselves?
Managers, the regional reuse system in terms of the irrigation pumps, the centrally located pond, that would fall underneath the responsibility of the level 7 land development group, which they are tied to the prior permit we just talked about. The individual permit applicants or parcels that get developed, they will be responsible for operations and maintenance of the on-site irrigation system.
So like all the sprinkler heads and just everything from where they connect to the regional system.
Correct.
Where is this in relation to what we just voted on?
It's the center section there. Yeah.
Yeah, where that big roundabout is in the middle.
Did you have a question? Manager Duval?
So this is an informal regional system. Is that what it is, or is that not? It's developed as though it were a formal system. It's informal by basis of the contracts and things.
President Pedersen, managers, I'll actually speak to that. Yes, in an ideal world, the regional system would be built. And there would be credits that would exist for that system that then the next developer could just say, I'm using X amount of credits available.
So is this a first time designed this way, or is this just happening because this is the way it's done, just is not being sponsored by a city per se or something? Is this a new,
Jeffrey just indicated that this is not a new concept. A regional system is
Right,
not a new
right.
concept.
but the way this one's going together,
The timing and the framework, the way this one is coming up, yes, where they want to build the system concurrently with selling off subparcels and then having them tap in. Ideally, the regional system would be built and in place.
so it's contractual obligations to, in lieu of having the central system built beforehand, basically.
Correct. Exactly.
This is interesting. Interesting in a way that other elements of
Probably
business
should have
have
done, but
developed over
that's not
time.
how it's
Yeah,
happened.
President Pedersen managers, if you'll remember, and I think you do, the reason behind this is each individual site came in looking for a variance on their property and just going through it
Right.
over and over
Mhm.
again. So, yeah.
Sounds like a good
President
approach.
Pedersen? President Pedersen.
Yes.
So it seems to me we're allowing activity that's going to build a restricted site. I mean, we're allowing a whole lot more pressure in an area that doesn't have enough land to be managing the stormwater well, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
So
I think they do have a company that's going to be managing this as a regional
Yes.
facility. I don't see this as there's not enough treatment for the water that's there, or that there's not a place for the water to go. I think it's being managed by the company that's developing all these little parts all at one time.
where's the water going?
Each location has a part of the whole system.
And where's the system
So
dumping to?
so they're using most of it for green space, the way I understand this, correct?
Correct.
It's for irrigation.
For the irrigation.
How much of it is going to go into a creek or a lake?
Some amount, I mean, just like every site, we don't capture every drop of water that falls on the site. We go to a standard and
So
they're
they're
gonna
not
get that
just jumping
standard.
into our creeks and
No,
lakes.
no.
They are meeting all of the
Yeah.
rate control, the water quality criteria, and they're providing abstraction to the maximum extent they can. And in this instance, please don't quote me, but I believe it's like 0.35 inches off of the impervious surface or the entire conceptually developed
Okay.
site.
Unless it's a very large storm event.
It should be okay.
It should be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I move.
Okay, thank you.
Approve.
I need a second.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, here's the vote. Manager Crafton. Manager Stovering.
Yes.
Manager Duval.
Yes.
Manager Nelson.
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes, approved 5-0. Next, adopt resolution 25-045, authorizing the president to sign a co-op agreement with Chanhassen for the Upper Riley Creek Restoration and Ecological Enhancement Project.
President Pedersen, managers, so at the January meeting, we were gonna come to you with this. It was actually on the agenda. At that time, we were looking to negotiate the agreement of how we would handle these canting facility that we were gonna incorporate into this project. Since then, the Chanhassen City Council, obvious expenditures that they've had over the last year, thought it not the best time to move forward. So our legal counsel and the city's legal counsel have negotiated this agreement that lays out who's responsible for the outfalls, maintenance operations, who needs to do daily inspections or regular inspections, as well as it was into that agreement that the it doesn't say they will do the decant facility, but it has language that is something they will continue to pursue in the future, since the district has done the design for it already. Most of the language that's in here, I won't say it's boilerplate language, but it's language that have been used in all of our agreements beforehand. So it's just like your specifications manual, where 99% of it is just rehashed, but then there's the 1% that's negotiated. The city of Chanhassen has already executed the agreement. What we are asking for tonight is to authorize the president to sign on behalf of the board, so that we can actually, all of our access is through city property for the most part too. So Andrew Soviak, if you have anything to add to that, feel free.
It's a good summary.
We're gonna get
Move
this
to
done.
approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. I need a second.
I second.
Thank you. Any other questions before we take the vote on this?
Question for Scott.
Hearing none. Manager Crafton, yea or nay?
Yes.
Yes. Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval.
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes, passes 5-0. Okay,
Into
this is
the
good that we finally, after all these months, have
Yes.
gotten that off the
Yeah.
list to do. Okay, next is award the Rice Marsh Lake and Round Lake Alum Treatment Project to Solitude. Would you like to talk about that, Mr. Jeffrey?
Yes, I will talk about that briefly. Managers, President Pedersen, managers. So first of all, I'd like to add a phrase onto this. So authorize the administrator to execute the contract documents and authorize the administrator with advice of legal counsel to enter into an agreement with the city of Eden Prairie for their $55,000 share of this. So if you'll remember, we added, after talking with Eden Prairie and realizing the dosing levels that they were using on it, we decided to do a full dose on it. And so we went out for bid. The bids, the engineer's opinion of cost, actually the ecologist's opinion of cost, came back, was quite high, but the bids came in actually lower than that, but more than what we had originally budgeted for, $35,000 more. We do have adequate funds in reserve to transfer that over and to pay for all this project. Or we could do a half dose on Round Lake and stay within what we have done. Now, Solitude is pretty much the only game in town. And really where they're getting us is that it's $17,000, I think, was the mobilization cost. So I think in the future, if we came back to do the second half of that dose, we would end up spending more anyway. So I think it makes more sense at this point to just do it right as was laid out by Joe Bischoff in the plan. So I recommend that we execute the contract, the amount of $293,575. $293,575 that we authorize the administrator with advice of legal counsel to enter into an agreement with the city of Eden Prairie. They are going to put forward $55,000 towards the Round Lake application.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move the award this. Does it got a number?
No, there is not a resolution.
Award, right?
Well, there is
The
a
resolution.
resolution in it. So it's written inside of it. So it would be resolution 23046.
Okay,
So I move that we approve resolution 25046.
okay, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions before we take a vote? Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
Manager Pedersen, yes, it passes 5-0. And now we're on to discussion items, and here we are at the Minnesota Watersheds resolutions and petitions. I believe that Terry kind of gave us his opinion, and we talked about these last month at the meeting. So How would we like to proceed on this? Terry, would you like to?
So really what we're looking for is direction for our two delegates, Manager Crafton and Manager Duval, at the August 25th meeting of how the board would like to move forward. So we could do it a number of ways. We could just do a voice vote, managers to say what our overall consensus is. We could argue and hash it out and make our cases. You know, I have laid out a little bit in the memorandum. I'm happy to talk more about these as need be. But
President,
I would say voice vote.
Yes, Manager Crafton.
could we take these out of order? I'd like to take 2 and 3 first.
Maybe talk about each one individually so that we can vote on them individually.
Okay, so last month we sort of talked about them each individually, and then we had kind of a rough consensus on what we were going to do. If I recall correctly, you were a no on the first one. Am I correct on that
Oh,
one?
yes, emphatically no.
Yes, emphatically no. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or do we all agree it's a no?
You just
So the first one is that the one,
drainage exemption, yes.
the drainage exemption.
Yeah, we don't want them
Can
to be
you
able.
put the resolution up that we're voting on right now? Is that up?
I could, if you'll give me some time, I'll go find it.
Oh, okay.
It's 2501 WACA exemption for drainage.
I don't need to look at that one actually, but as we,
Okay, do we have any discussion at all on that first one? Do we all agree that that one we would say it's a no?
Was this because of the new statutes?
Yep, yeah, so briefly, they used to exempt types 1, 2, and 6 wetlands. They no longer exempt those in that. The prior converted wetland, so it used to be, has it been planted in crops in the last 25 years, X number of years out of it, and has now gone to, does the NRCS say that it is a prior converted wetland? And then you must provide documentation to Bowser that it was a prior converted wetland. They are the outstate districts who tend to be drainage authorities are worried that that will be too cumbersome for them. And they don't know how that will operate. But their larger one is they didn't like the fact that types 1, 2, and 6 wetlands are no longer exempt. But
So these were statute changes that were made 2024.
correct.
And so there were some efforts to try and strengthen some of the wetland protection essentially. So as a person that's attended a lot of the drainage work group meetings, and also as a chair of the wetlands committee at Bowser, I mean, the drainage group has been evolving, and they brought more water quality and they brought more wetland protection into that drainage manual, mostly guidelines, but those things are supposed to be factored into the drainage process. When the engineer goes out and does a prelim report, there's inspections, there are reviews, there's comments, there's all kinds of built-in sequencing of reviewing that process. But some of those things are supposed to be factored into what they're doing with the drainage. So, and when we were up in Roseau, we were looking at one of those, we were out looking at one of those systems, and they had factored in some wetland stuff into that drainage, I thought. But it's, to me, this is, for us in the urban area, we're trying to protect our wetlands. I mean, we already got enough problems protecting them, so it's gonna be contentious when we get to the vote, but I agree with Terry, we gotta protect this. We gotta.
So you're a no, Leslie, I'm a no.
No.
No. Bonnie, you're a no.
no.
Okay, so that's it for that one. Now we're on to number 2, which is revised Minnesota statute to include WMO.
Yeah, this is so that Bassett Creek, they're the one putting it forward, Bassett Creek Watershed Management Commission is a WMO. So they want to be at the table when things are being considered. And that, as a Minnesota watersheds, we're trying to be more inclusive. I don't see any reason why a WMO, I mean, there's some statutory or some legal definitions of what they are as an organization. But I don't know why we should be keeping them away from the table.
I agree. I 100% agree. So I'm a yes. Jill, you're a yes. Leslie, you're a
Yes.
Bonnie, yes.
Yes.
We're all yes on that one. And the last one, which is, the DNR efficiency.
Well, we saw why this is important tonight. And we've got people that are $800,000 into a project, and DNR is just delaying and won't give them what they need, and it's happening often. So, I mean, you might have more examples, Sherry, but
I agree. And as I was going through this last process, well, it in and of itself, wasn't horrible. The bottom line to this resolution is there needs to be more better communication and more collaboration between agencies. And I don't disagree with that. So if this goes some way towards getting to that.
and more clarification.
I have a major problem with the language of the resolution. I think it violates statute. It doesn't take into account the federal oversight of Endangered Species Act. I could go on and on about the language of what the resolution says, of why I disagree with it. But I do agree that improving the permit process with the DNR is important. So I don't know how those two, the MPCA has gone through this. You'll notice they sort of throw them in, but they do have a lot of language about permit efficiencies. We have permitting completeness checklists. The change, you sometimes get what you ask for. So more than half of the applications just get returned. You spend a lot more money up front on consultants. You lose your collaboration. So there's pros and cons with what they're asking for. I don't know that, I think they're just frustrated, and you can't mandate a permit be automatically issued. I mean, that would violate their statutory authorities. I mean, the language is very poor, in my opinion. But the concept of how can we make DNR talk to us, and I don't know, I've not been part of those conversations. So I'm not sure what to do with this one, because I really do not like the resolution.
Yeah, and I agree with, that was one of my points. And then also the amount of time they want to give for determining if it's complete is 30 days. I'm sorry, I've dealt with these types of permits. That's not enough time.
Right.
It's like you may want it fast, but they're talking to the Corps, they're talking to the other state agencies, and it's just a lot of pieces that need to be pulled together. And I think that's, the automatic, and then the short time frame. But yes, it needs more collaboration. They need a better process.
So what do we do with that? Yeah.
Do we say to Manager Crafton and Manager Duval, the underlying concept we agree with, but we need to have more days than 30 days, and we need to change some of the language within the resolution? Can we do that?
It needs work.
We don't agree with their regulatory approach to improving the communication or the deadlines, because that's.
Can we say that?
That's a good way to put it.
Would that be a good way to do it? Does everybody agree?
No.
Yes. No. Manager Crafton, no?
Well, we can ask for some improvement on the timeline, but part of the problem is you're not getting good communication, so you don't know why there's a delay. I mean, there's just a whole lot of issues here that are really problematic in the process, and the process needs to be improved. It's not working the way it is, and a lot of it's a lack of communication by the agencies.
Correct. So I worked for the PCA, as you know, for 35 years. And we went through all of this same stuff. I worked with air quality mostly at the end, which is incredibly regulated and time sensitive for money. There is it, you get goals, and that if you don't meet the goals, we had to do a lot of reports. It takes a lot of staff time. We have very limited staff to do these projects. So part of it gets to, is DNR adequately staffed? Is that something we would want them to get additional staff to manage these permits? Is there, I mean, there's so many things that are doable. What we're asking for, in my opinion, is not doable. They cannot achieve it. So it's feels like a waste of our energy to ask for something that is not going to be possible, which is why the DNR keeps cutting off the conversations and saying this is not feasible or practical. So I feels like we're banging our head against the wall to make a change in a way that's there is, yeah, I yeah.
Terry, what's your opinion? No.
I struggle with the way it's written as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's mainly the way it's written.
Okay, but could we just
But
give you
it's
our
a
two?
problem that needs to be solved, but it's not written properly.
Okay, so could we give that to our two representatives and then you have to do what you can, delegates, to make the changes there? Would that be acceptable?
That's fine with me. What would you recommend, Terry?
So
I would look to Mr. Smith, to be honest, since he's the legal mastermind.
Okay, Mr. Smith, we'd like your input.
I've appreciated this discussion, and we've had, several rounds. What I would say is that there is a legitimate concern about the process not working well currently. One of the ideas that's been put forward is that the DNR should respond to permits meeting deadlines the same way that all of local government does, including watershed districts. I don't think that's a radical idea, but I do think the fundamental point of the resolution is to keep pressing this issue and continue the discussion to find a better framework that's more workable for the DNR and the permit applicants, like local governments and watersheds. So I think your general advice that you're sympathetic and supportive of the goals of the resolution, and you have concerns about some of the consequences of the language, I think that's good direction for the delegates, and I'm sure these discussions will continue. But I think there's value in keeping this issue on the table rather than giving up on it.
Okay, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, everyone
Yes.
agreed. Okay, all agreed. Thank you. At least you know what you're supposed to be doing, delegates. Okay, the next item is the update on the Larry Cook versus Riley Perk, the two court cases. Do we need to go into closed session?
Madam President, we have no update to provide this meeting
Okay,
on either of the cases.
okay. Thank you very much. Which leads us to the items you can see as our upcoming board topics and the upcoming board events, the watershed. Looks like we can adjourn. I'm looking for a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
a second.
Thank you. And a roll call. Manager Crafton,
Yes.
Manager Stovering,
Yes.
Manager Duval,
Yes.
Manager Nelson,
Yes.
and Manager Pedersen, yes. We are adjourned at 2 minutes to 9. Thank you all very much.
Right.